All right. Hello, everyone. I just finished reading this book, Vulture Capitalism, by Grace Blakeley. I'd never heard of Grace Blakeley, but she's quite well known. She writes for the Tribune magazine, which I will probably start reading now on the strength of this book and the fact that she writes for it. She's really, really good. Um, when you discover a writer like Grace Blakeley, you want to read the rest of their books. That simple. She's that good. What's the book about? Vulture Capitalism: How to Survive in an Age of Corporate Greed. Well, obviously, it's about capitalism. She calls it vulture capitalism, and it's incredibly well written, incredibly well researched. It's better than reading a really good novel. I mean, I was hooked. And I wasn't just hooked because of confirmation bias, which is finding out stuff that supports what you already believe. I've read a lot of books on this kind of thing. A very, very good one, actually, is The Hidden Doctrine or The Invisible Doctrine by, I forget the guy's name now, but I'd actually already reviewed it on this channel and then deleted it because it was too long. There was too much in it, even though the book's only this thick. It was really, really fantastic. This book taught me stuff which supports what's in that book, which I think everybody has an inkling of. The economy is going downhill. Poor people are getting poorer. Rich people are getting richer and richer. Governments are failing us. They only seem to serve corporate interests. The argument of this book is that's exactly how it's meant to be. It's not because, as some people will say, oh, Brexit wasn't allowed to happen properly, the EU prevented it, or capitalism was thwarted, it wasn't done properly, or neoliberalism wasn't allowed to thrive, Liz Truss and Kwarteng and that lot. They actually were right, as some idiots, some MPs have actually been on TV after and saying they were right. Yeah, how comes we lost so much money then? How comes the markets are screwed? If capitalism is so great, why is America so undeniably screwed now? I speak to friends in America and they're shocked. What happened to our country, they're saying? Well, what happened is exactly what's meant to happen under capitalism. And this book is just astonishingly good. It's 10 out of 10, without a doubt. I recommend everybody reads it. I'm even tempted to suggest it to people I know who watch things like GB News. GB News, as far as I'm concerned, is a shortcut to stupidity and ignorance that harms you. Sometimes ignorance is bliss, not the kind of ignorance that's bliss, the kind of ignorance that will leave you in a pile of shit you'll never escape from because you went along with what all the people behind things like GB News are saying. They don't give a damn about you. They just want whatever money they might be able to make from you. So let me read you the back of this book. Free markets aren't really free. Record corporate profits don't trickle down to everyone else. And we weren't empowered to make our own and we aren't empowered to make our own choices. They're made for us every day. Taking on the world's most powerful figures and corporations, from JP Morgan to Boeing, Jeff Bezos to Donald Trump, vulture capitalism uncovers the causes of our modern crisis to show the true motives of our capitalist system. Because it isn't broken, it's working exactly as planned. This book is the book you need to understand what is happening in the world around you and what you can do to change it. A vigorous rejection of the liberal idea that if only some enlightened government were to tweak its policies correctly, democratic capitalism would bring prosperity to all. That's The Guardian, by the way. And then Ha-Joon Chang says, read this book if you want to make a fundamental change to the world. Ha-Joon Chang is a fantastic economist, and really probably one of the first ones I read where I didn't get an inkling of reading the book just through observing the world and having a heartbeat and a brain. Hang on, this is bullshit, which is what I often think after reading classical economic texts, the kind of stuff that, our governments say works. What really makes me laugh is when you get morons like, what's his name? Jacob Rees-Mogg. You can't do this because it's bad economics, i.e. taxing rich people. What the fuck do you know about economics, you twat? But because he speaks like this, all the people who don't know better believe him. Anyway, how bad is it? Terrible. Boeing made this plane, the 737 MAX, which just to cut costs and just to make things more profitable, two planes ended up crashing, killing loads of people. And while it was going on, the engineers at Boeing were actually saying, we can't do this, we can't do that. But the people in charge were saying, yeah, we'll do this because it will make us more money. And people died. And one of those people in charge, I think it was a guy called McNamara or something, he went on to serve in the US government under Reagan. and he was called a whiz kid. And this kind of chasing profits, the danger it's caused to mankind, the deaths it's caused to mankind, just so that the people who own the companies can walk away with massive payouts and the rest can go to shareholders. Fuck the products they produce, fuck the customers. You know, it's made so clear in this book. Fascism is the result. It's just a latter stage in capitalism. It really is. And the more you understand stuff like this, the more you will not be surprised that people like Trump are in charge. You know, that people like Farage and all the other offshoots of reform and all these stupid parties are so popular. The people are treated like shit because of the systems they are pushing to make themselves richer, and then also capital, the stuff that everybody controls the media, so they tell you that it's what's good for you. And I mean, seriously though, when you watch shit like GB News, don't you think, hang on, these guys are morons? Anybody, they ask a question, and then as soon as the other person starts speaking, are you going to answer the question? Are you going to answer the question? Are you going to answer? Shut the fuck up, you know. But there's lots of money behind them. That's why they're on TV. There's lots of money behind people like Farage. That's why he's on TV. Although now that we've seen so much of him, he's starting to fall in the polls. People are thinking, this idiot. Let me talk about the book. The book is mind blowing. One of the really good things about the book is, after you think, my God, we're all screwed, they're going to kill us all, you know, where there are actual democracies, well, one of the biggest jokes on the planet now, it's not funny, it's tragic, is that America likes democracy. No, America and other unashamedly capitalist countries want to go everywhere in the world, steal everything they can. Oil's a good example. Look at Venezuela. Oh, we did it because Venezuela is responsible for our drug problem. No, you won't regulate the drug companies. You don't give a shit about the consumers. That's why you've got a drug problem. But no, let's just take over Venezuela and run it so we can steal all the oil. And they unashamedly say it. The same with Israel. Oh, it was a promise to us. Hang on, weren't you going to take over a bit of Africa and then a bit of South America? But they didn't figure out. So now God promised you Palestine. So we're going to murder all of those, have an endless war so that we can keep making money from weapons and weapons sales. It's fucking crazy. It really is. But it's the way capitalism is meant to work. Capital has all the power. You and everybody else is screwed unless you organize and fight it. And there are examples of this in this book of people fighting it. There was the Lucas Plan, which was when the biggest British like aerospace company was facing problems. So the workers got together and put forward about 1,500 really good ideas, but they were nothing to do with weapons. They were actually, you know, this is back in the 80s, I think, or the 70s. They were about things like renewable energy. They had all the engineers there. They came up with all these great ideas to save the company. The management, no, sod this. And the guy who was leading it, a guy called Mike Cooley, some cool Irish name, Cooley or something like that. Eventually, he was removed from the unions and I think thrown in jail by Thatcher's lot, you know, who came in and unleashed fantastically, shocking violence against the unions to destroy them. Because if there are unions, then you have to treat workers properly. And if you treat workers properly, well, then you can't take all the money produced by their labour hours and give it to yourself and your shareholders, which is what capitalism's about, which is what capitalism is meant to do, which is why fascism is pretty much an end result. Because when the people realise they're being screwed, they might rise up against each other. So you have to turn them against each other. You have to blame someone. You have to take away civil liberties and say it's because of martial law and it's because of, I don't know, Muslim rapists or something, which Muslims make up less than about 0.5% of rapists in the UK, convicted rapists, right? But that doesn't matter. You know, that doesn't matter at all because who gives a shit about facts, right? You can't mention Muslims without calling them rapists if you're a capitalist because, of course, America's highly involved, Israel's highly involved. The more you hate Muslims, the better. The more of them they can murder and steal their land and whatever else. I mean, obviously, you can see this book has sent my mind into a spin. It talks about budgets where the people whose money, taxes, make up the budget actually get a say in what happens. It works incredibly well. It's been done in South America. It's been done in Spain. It's been done all over the place. But, you know, your media will never tell you about it apart from saying it's communism. Yeah. Free markets, what a load of bullshit. The US and the UK got rich by their governments and the militaries helping the markets, i.e. letting them go and kill everybody, steal everything overseas, right? free markets. My ass. If you guys love free markets, what's with all the tariffs, America? Huh? Free markets never made anybody rich. But what they allowed the US to do, and the UK to back it up, and other Western countries, is when you have a country like, or a continent like Africa or Asia, because the Brits and the Americans and the Portuguese and everyone went in and screwed them and stole everything. When their economies aren't working, they say, oh, it's because you don't use free market capitalism. So the IMF says, here's 20 billion or whatever. You have to follow our rules, which never worked and never made anybody rich. And then you have to pay us back. And when they can't pay them back, more sanctions, right? And then the companies, you have this thing called ISDS, which is where companies can sue governments if those governments are seen as interfering with their profits. Usually American companies and British companies, or all companies, yeah. And then you have other companies which are allowed to do things like buy up the debt that poor countries can't afford to pay. And then when they can't pay that debt back to them, sue them. So if they had like 3 billion of debt, sue them for 15 billion. Get more money out of them. Fuck them. Yeah, it's such a good book. I have to leave for work now. But I don't know how much of a good overview of that book I gave you, other than clearly communicated my enthusiasm for it. I think everybody should read this. And then maybe, the most democratically elected, non-democratic people in the world, like ICE or someone from the UK, will come to your door and arrest you or shoot you, something like that, because you can't fuck with their profits. No, you can't do that. So, excellent book. I think this is like a university text, not because it's boring, but it's so much information in it. It's not boring at all. I thoroughly recommend it. Unfortunately, this is a borrowed book. It's not mine. I'd like to just read it again a couple of times, but I'll probably just go and buy it and then read it once I've read the next 3 or 4 books. Once again, Grace Blakeley, Vulture Capitalism, How to Survive in an Age of Corporate Greed. Mind-blowing, brilliant, 10 out of 10. Read it.